Pleiade is the name given to a group of 16th-century French Renaissance poets whose principal members were Pierre de Ronsard, Joachim du Bellay and Jean-Antoine de Baïf. The name was a reference to another literary group, the original Alexandrian Pleiad of 7 Alexandrian poets and tragedians, corresponding to the 7 stars of the Pleiades star cluster. The name Pleiade was also adopted in 1323 by a group of 14 poets in Toulouse. The French Renaissance Pleiade. Major figures. Notable members of Pleiade consisted of the following people: Pierre de Ronsard, Joachim du Bellay, Jean-Antoine de Baïf. The core group of the French Renaissance Pleiade, Pierre de Ronsard, Joachim du Bellay and Jean-Antoine de Baïf, were young French poets who met at the Collège de Coqueret, where they studied under the famous Hellenist and Latinist scholar Jean Dorat. They were generally called the Brigade at the time. Ronsard was regarded as the leader of the Brigade, and remained the most popular and well-known poet of the group. The Pleiades Manifesto was penned by Joachim du Bellay. In it, du Bellay detailed a literary program of renewal and revolution. The group aimed to break with earlier traditions of French poetry, and, maintaining that French was a worthy language for literary expression, to attempt to ennoble the French language by imitating the ancients. To this end, du Bellay recommended vernacular innovation of Greek and Roman poetic forms, emulation of specific models, and the creation of neologisms based on Greek and Latin. Among the models favored by the Pleiade were Pindar, Anacreon, Alcaeus and other poets of the Greek anthology, as well as Virgil, Horace and Ovid. The ideal was not one of slavish imitation, but of a poet so well versed in the entire corpus of ancient literature that he would be able to convert it into an entirely new and rich poetic language in the vernacular. For some of the members of the Pleiade, the act of the poetry itself was seen as a form of divine inspiration, a possession by the muses akin to romantic passion, prophetic fervor or alcoholic delirium. The forms that dominate the poetic production of these poets are the Petrarch chansonnet cycle and the Horatian Annika Antico. Ronsard also tried early on to adapt the Pindaric Ode into French and, later, to write a nationalist verse epic modelled on Homer and Virgil, which he never completed. Throughout the period, the use of mythology is frequent, but so too is a depiction of the natural world. Minor figures. Minor figures also associated with this term include the following: Pontus de Théard, Étienne Jodelle, Requtem Bello, Jacques Pelletier du Mans, Jean de la Pérouse, Guillaume des Hortels. Use of the term. The use of the term Pleiade to refer to the group the French poets around Ronsard and du Bellay is much criticized. In his poems, Ronsard frequently made lists of those he considered the best poets of his generation, but these lists changed several times. These lists always included Ronsard, du Bellay, de Baïf, Pontus de Théard and Étienne Jodelle. The last 2 positions were taken by Requtem Bello, Jacques Pelletier du Mans, Jean de la Pérouse, or Guillaume des Hortels. In a poem in 1556, Ronsard announced that the Brigade had become the Pleiade, but apparently no one in Ronsard's literary circle used the expression to refer to himself. And use of the term stems principally from Huguenot poets critical of Ronsard's pretensions. This use was finally consecrated by Ronsard's biographer Claude Binet shortly after the poet's death. Some modern literary historians reject the use of the term, as it gives precedence to Ronsard's poetic ideas and minimizes the diversity of poetic production in the French Renaissance. The 14th century Toulouse Pleiade Male poets: Bernard de Panassac, Guillaume de Lobre, Berenguer de Saint-Plancart, Pierre de Mégenezera, Guillaume de Gontaut, Pierre Camus, Bernadotte. Female poets: Catherine Fontaine, Bernard Dupy, Claude Ligon, Audiette Pachera, S. Clemence Pinet, Johanna Pearl, Françoise Marie,